परस्य धीमहि यन्नः सत्येन दीपयेत्। तत्सवितुर्वरं रूपम् ज्योतिः परस्य धीमहि यन्नः सत्येन दीपयेत्। तत्सवितुर्वरं रूपम् ज्योतिः परस्य धीमहि यन्नः सत्येन दीपयेत्।
So, good evening and good morning. Let us begin with the Looking from Within study circle. So, this is our session 2 after the break, and we are on the section Ordeals and Difficulties. So, we'll continue with that. And as we begin, just taking a few moments to ingather ourselves, to stabilize ourselves, to make ourselves more present in the present moment. With the help of few breaths, let's take a few breaths in the present, focusing fully on the in-breath and the out-breath and trying not to get distracted. Invoking Mother and Sri Aurobindo's presence and grace, divine presence and unlimited grace that they are, and yet it's I who is unable to receive much. So aspiring for more receptivity, flexibility, expansion, will, and peace. Let's begin. The last time we had done a small section known as titled Difficulties Across the Path. And today we will begin with difficulties, a help for realization. So part 2 of this section, Ordeals and Difficulties. So if anybody has the capacity, they can read. It's a small passage from the Mother. Otherwise, I'll read.
Yeah. So starting from
Number 2, where it says difficulties, a help for realization. Is my screen visible?
yes, the screen is visible, but I have a printout of the book and just trying to locate it.
Page
Yes,
74.
yes, page
Yeah.
74.
Yeah.
Yeah, difficulties. So I will read from the second point. Difficulties, a help for realization. Difficulties are sent to us exclusively to make the realization more perfect. Each time we try to realize something and meet with a resistance or an obstacle or even a failure, what seems to be a failure, we should know, we should never forget that it is exclusively, absolutely, so that the realization may be more perfect. So, this habit of cringing, of getting discouraged, or even of feeling uncomfortable, or of abusing yourself and telling yourself, there, again, I have made a mistake. All that is absolute foolishness. Simply tell yourself, we don't know how to do things as they ought to be done. Well, they are being done for us, come what may. And if we could see to what extent all that seems to be, yes, a difficulty, a mistake, a failure, an obstacle, all that is just to help us so that the realization may be more perfect. Once you know that, everything becomes easy. The mother.
Yes, thank you. I think it's one thing to read and another thing to truly understand or know what is being said, because we do read, hear, listen, see a lot of things. And yet, when it comes to us or when it comes for us to judge others, we don't use that tool. We don't use that advice. We don't use that truth to actually move forward. So, difficulties a help for realization. So, anytime we are faced with difficulties, and it's often that small and big things come to us, strange things sometimes, which we wonder why did they even need to happen when things could go so smoothly. So much variety in that, or it seems. And yet there is a blanket statement here which says difficulties, they are there for your realization. Almost similar to Sri Aurobindo's, where it said that pain is the hammer of the gods, which is there to break the dead resistance in the mortal soul. So, what do they do if we don't get vigilant, get want to perfect ourselves without it getting intolerable, without it getting very chaotic, and without it paining us? Now, there is, I think it was Dr. Yogesh Mohan in one of his sessions. No, sorry, Dr. Debu. Dr. Devashish, who's a eye doctor, and he had shared in one of the sessions in Namaha that he works for the community in the hospital, and there are a lot of people he sees who come to me like after the thing has really gone bad. Like they're on kind of just about to get blind and all, like they have lost vision. And when he asks them, like, what took you so long? Like, why didn't you come sooner? And the most common reply is, but there was no pain. So I'm willing to go blind or not care that much that I'm unable to see if it's not painful. And if it pains, I just run for a cure, right? And there is something in us which is a bit dull. I mean, of course, we know there's the plant in us, the animal in us, the stone in us. So there is something in us which refuses to budge, mostly unless it really truly hurts. जब तक चलता है हम चला लेते हैं, एडजस्ट कर लो, this is our thing. And yet we have seen that as the soul progresses, as the consciousness gets more sensitive, the smallest pains, the smallest disturbances, they feel alien. They feel, why are they there? How do I get rid of it? And this is quite true that once you start seeing that correlation between the suffering, the pain, and your progress and your lightness, no matter how big the suffering, there's something in me when something comes. There's something in me that is saying, a small voice that, but this is good for you. But this is good for you. Hold on, hold on. So now that we know this more and more, also listening to that voice and not losing it fully. We usually just go berserk, at least for a short time. So that's not, we cannot not do it. We have the choice not to fully get totally in that thing, that why is it happening to me and what's happening. So reading the passage by the mother, rereading, a very simple one. All mother's passages are said in such simplicity so that we can understand. So much grace. So mother says difficulties are sent to us exclusively to make the realization more perfect. It's a statement. Each time we try to realize something and meet with the resistance or an obstacle or even a failure, what seems to be a failure? Again, I think this is very important if we can understand and accept it. You know how in Savitri there's this line that his failure is not failure whom God leads. And even I don't remember word to word, but the basic essence of that composition, the poem that Champak Lalji had written about failures, that it's not my failure, it's like I don't fail. So a lot of things which are resistant, which seems like an obstacle, which seems like a failure. So next time when I don't know, going through something, if I can remind myself that this seems like an obstacle, this seems like a failure, and I don't know what this is doing to me. So mother says we should know, we should never forget that it is exclusively, absolutely, so that the realization may be more perfect. And the love of divine, the acceptance of divine. Now, there are so many quotes, there are so many words from so many masters in which they say that, no, I don't look at your failure, I look at your potential. In a way, I don't look at what you have done, but I look at what you're capable of doing. There was one quote I had recently read, and I don't remember the exact words, but it was from Sri Aurobindo. He had said that he was talking about, as in having favorites, or how that is an impossibility that I could choose one disciple over the other. Like for me, all are same. But it was very beautifully worded, and it was a surprising to me that, there are so many people who are doing, at that time, such beautiful disciples, giants in themselves. And yet there is this presence which says that how do I distinguish? That's not a possibility for me. And here I sit and just, kind of judge, and I don't know what to say, but it's funny, it's hilarious. or not, but we can, I mean, if we can find it hilarious, maybe we can move on, beyond that. Yeah. After this, I think I read something in Synthesis yesterday, which was very beautiful too. Somewhat related. Maybe we'll share that. Okay, so this habit of cringing, of getting discouraged, or even of feeling uncomfortable, or of abusing yourself and telling yourself, there, again, I have made a mistake, all that is absolute foolishness. If I remember correctly, even in that composition, forces of nature, or was it, I don't know the name of the book. Yeah, it was on the forces, again, a composition by Dr. A.S. Dalal. They had said that how these are the tools of the negative energies which keep us tied down. Because all the time that I lose in wondering what's wrong with me or why did I do it again, that's the time we are losing. That's the time we are not actively working towards our progress. And we feel it's very humble, very nice. See, I did this thing and I feel so bad about it. See, I'm repenting. See, I'm guilty. And yet, I am losing that valuable, valuable time. So, one of the things I feel, one of the grace I feel of a rise in some, little bit even rise in consciousness is we don't get stuck that often. Something happens. I feel that, oh, I did it again, or I got a plate, or whatever. And then you don't sit there, you acknowledge, and maybe you say, I'll try to do better, or maybe not. And you just get about doing what you need to do without wasting another moment. Say, if I was supposed to get up at 4, and say I got up at 6, and if I got up at 6 and then I kind of repent for the next 40 minutes that, oh God, I lost 2 hours, what do I do? So I don't realize that then I have lost 2 hours and 40 minutes instead of 2 hours. So to realize that and limit that if possible seems very sensible. Yeah, I've been going on and on. Any reflections? Any questions, any comments? Welcome to unmute and please share. So mother couldn't have said it more clearly that all that is absolute foolishness. So simply tell yourself we don't know how to do things as they ought to be done. Well, they are being done for us, come what may. No matter what is happening, things are being done for us. We are being stirred, poked, led towards the right way, knowing that. And if we could see to what extent all that seems to be, yes, a difficulty, a mistake, a failure, an obstacle, all that is just to help us so that the realization may be more perfect. Once you know that, everything becomes easy. So if I want easy, maybe I can understand and accept this and practice this more, that the next time I sit down on that accusation, self-critical mode, maybe I can remember this. Removing the maybe, I will remember this, that all my failures, all my difficulties, obstacles, resistances, challenges, suffering, pain is just to help me make my realization more perfect. You know, I once, a long time back, seen a documentary of the Buddha. And in that period where, he's sitting under the Bodhi tree and he's just about to cross over, kind of like reach nirvana or whatever one would want to call it. Before that, there was so many things thrown at him, so many temptations, riddhis, siddhis, powers that, don't just get up and take this, take that. And we know of the ancient saints, right, that when they would be in tapasya, how apsaras would be sent for them to entice them, to lure them. That get up, see, so beautiful. See, how can you tempt that? So these temptations, if we are not able to resist these, even the small ones that we face every day, greed, lust, craving. There was this thing we had shared on the groups recently that somebody, a sadhika, I think, a devotee, she's telling the mother that, mother, I don't know, I'm craving that specific thing, like really craving. Can you either, grant me that thing, or it was a food item, or take away my craving, something like this. So mother said, you will not, I will not be granting anything, you will not be eating that. If you want to eat anything, it will have to be your craving, that you can eat up your craving. Because every single time we give in to that desire, to that temptation, to that craving, thinking it's innocent, it wins and I lose. I become weaker, my stance become weaker. It's not about not eating, it's not about not indulging. But again, the center, a lot of times these cravings, these temptations come and they get a hold of us as if there is no choice, that I have to do it. And that is where we get enslaved. So coming back to that Buddha example, so that made me realize that how much, that movement that, okay, I've given, but again it comes and I again take, okay, it feels I've transcended. And again something comes and I again fall. So this movement I feel really improves my stance. Meri paripakvata, basically, I guess it helps with that, in making me finer, stronger. So that is all for me. What seems like a failure, a rejection, a disappointment, a challenge I can't face is to purify me more, is to make me more capable, more saksham. I know I've spoken enough, and yet just one last thing, hopefully. Acharya Prashant, I think I must have mentioned it so many times. One of his most favorite videos of mine, it talks about that how nature will win a lot of times. The title of the talk is हारेंगे हम बार बार कोई हार आखिरी ना हो. So we are built that way, we are that way, that we'll keep losing, we'll keep losing, we'll keep losing. And he also has given that example of getting up in the morning, that in winters, if you have put an alarm for 6, get up at 6:15. If you're not able to get up at 6, get up at 6:30, 6:45, something like this. That don't stand there and weep, or don't say that I have lost. That is how I am. But I can't give up. I can't give up. I can't give up, because the loss, the that failure is in giving up. And all we have to do is show up and try again and again and again, no matter how difficult, no matter how much like a failure or insufficient, incapable I feel. I have to keep trying, I have to keep walking. And I think that's a very beautiful teaching, learning approach in life. And yeah. Yeah, would you like to say anything or should we move ahead?
So this video of Acharya Prashant, what's the topic you said?
The title is हारेंगे हम बार बार मगर कोई हार आखिरी ना हो. I can share it with you. This is one of the first videos like that I remember listening, and I have listened to it so many times after that. Like it's like that, yes, I failed, but so what? Like that it's very, very, how there's somebody who says कि बस कमर कस लो चलो, right? Belt band कर. So that ways that's very, it feels right? Like when you listen to something like this, there's some expansion inside. Like right now, if I were to close my eyes and just say that, I'm good for nothing, या मेरे से होगा ही नहीं. Yeah, my God, like I hardly try anything properly. I feel there is this shrinking in my being. I feel that physically. I feel my being kind of regressing in, like going in. I can see that. And I don't know if you try, it's very visible. One can sense that, see that. Compared to that, if I were to just again close my eyes and say that, I am the expanse. No, there is no failure that belongs to me. I should move on. I should keep going on. There is someone, something, a higher power that's guiding me. All is well. How can the end be vain when God is the guide? These things, they actually expand me. I feel that straightening of the spine, more higher, taller. I stand taller when I'm saying the right things, I feel, when I'm feeling the right things. Sorry, that wasn't your question, but yeah.
I agree. In fact, I had heard a talk of Akhandanandji, and in that, he says that every day in the morning, before you start your day, just make it a practice to sit and tell yourself. It's in Hindi. I'll just repeat that. I've written it on a piece of paper. अपने प्रत्यक्ष चैतन्य भिन्न ब्रह्म स्वरूप में बैठकर कहिए, मुझ में माया नहीं है, प्रकृति नहीं है, त्रिगुण नहीं है, महत्व नहीं है, अहंकार नहीं है, पंचभूत पंच महाभूत नहीं है, मैं अद्वितीय परम ब्रह्म परमात्मा हूँ. ये निश्चय करके ध्यान में बैठे. अपने स्वरूप का ध्यान होने से दूसरा रहेगा ही नहीं. जब दूसरा रहेगा ही नहीं तो किसमें मन को लगाएंगे और किससे हटाएंगे. So he said that before you sit down for meditation, if you just sit with this thought process, and actually, if you tell yourself this, also when I'm saying it, मेरे में त्रिगुण नहीं है, प्रकृति नहीं है, अहंकार नहीं है, something in me nudges and tells me, अच्छा नहीं है, but then something in me tells me, हाँ नहीं है, मतलब there's a bigger sense, bigger part of me which does believe this, but then some part of me keeps kind of telling me, ये सब तो है ही नहीं मेरे में, मतलब है, मतलब I am not so good what you are saying, but just saying this also makes me transports me to a different platform. And I think by continuously saying it, it would be making some difference or the other in the subtle, although I don't realize it, but then it does. Repeating this every day does make some change.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in the beginning, even if it's, what we call lip service, that I'm just saying it without believing it. Because like you said, that there are, so many parts in us. Like I think in that compilation, My Many Selves, I could be wrong, but it is said that, when I first saw the title, say My Many Selves, it felt okay, maybe, 7, 8. maybe 10. But okay, 2, 3 are more evident, right? My many cells. But in that, I think mother says 10,000 cells live in, something like this. कि कौन सी movement कहाँ से आ रही है? So much the physical is holding, so much the animal in me is holding, so much the stone in me is holding, and I don't even know what is being played what. And all that is dulled by the reasoning mind. So I don't see that actively. तो सबकॉन्शियस क्या कुछ एक्ट कर रहा है तो अभी दैट इज डोमिनेटिंग and here what you just suggested, then I am dominating that, yet you might be there and yet I am not limited by that. That's the main thing, right? Okay, yes, you live in me maybe, but that's not me, that's not me. I am more than that. So it's a very beautiful thing to do, and slowly, 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 you don't even realize, it works like magic. Another, I am not good at this, but there's another line in Savitri which says that a prayer, a master idea, a king's idea, or a master act, like these two, three things, they change the course of things. Like they give you suddenly, like your prayers, or if you have an idea which is bigger than that, or if you do an act which is like higher than you, there's suddenly the whole cosmos that joins you, and there's a magic that is created. Like, how we say that, oh, I'm such a limited being. How do I do this? And yet, say, if we were to listen to the most recent example that's coming to me is of Jet Sunmala. There was this talk from Sister Lucy and Jet Sunmala that I'd shared on the group that you had told me you had heard also, I think. So in that, they had mentioned that how when they thought, say, when Jet Sunmala spoke about building the nunnery, she said all I had to do was to basically just aspire and then say, this is what I want. And it was as if the whole cosmos is now suddenly somebody approached her that can I write a book about you? And then she dedicated the book and then she became popular and then there were so many talks. Like the money just kept pouring in after that and she had no way of getting it herself. Like no way. And similarly, I think Sister Lucy, who works for the homeless, she didn't have anything, a penny in her name. And I don't know how, maybe she has around 50 orphanages, not orphanages, but those homes for homeless in South India, just that she willed to do that. And we keep thinking we are small and, what good will we do? So it's pretty amazing that it's not about me. It's just that I am just maybe just thinking about myself, myself, myself. But as soon as I get big, if there's something that is higher, yeah, I found it higher than me. It's a magic leverage suddenly is caught. So leverage, how you pull this and something else moves. That moves the veiled, ineffable, timeless will. Like I feel the life is going this way. ये मेरी destiny है, ये मेरे strengths है, weaknesses हैं, capabilities हैं, incapabilities हैं, right? So that moves the veiled, ineffable, timeless will. कि इससे उसकी will change हो जाती है इस चीज से. उसकी will, a prayer, a master act, a king idea can link man's strength to a transcendent force. तो हमें मास्टर आइडिया में भी बड़ा लगे, किंग आइडिया में भी बड़ा लगे, मास्टर एक्ट या किंग आइडिया, बट प्रेयर तो हम कर ही सकते हैं ना. और व्हाट यू स्पोक, इट साउंडेड लाइक अ प्रेयर, राइट? लाइक अ फैक्ट, लाइक अ प्रेयर दैट या फिर तो बना दो या फिर तो हूँ, राइट? लाइक इट कैन बी टेकन इन एनी फॉर्म, can link man's strength to a transcendent force, then miracle is made the common rule. कि अभी हमें लगता है, oh my God, एक miracle हो गया, right? And then miracle is made the common rule. One mighty deed can change the course of things. A lonely thought becomes omnipotent. Like a small thought becomes omnipotent, मतलब all powerful. So it's just what I'm doing with myself. Like there's so much capacity and capability. So one act, one idea, one prayer can link me to that force which will change the time and miracle will become the common rule. Yeah.
Even the last time when we were reading in this book, only in the last paragraph, it said there is always something that either carries us on or forces us on. So there is something.
Yes, I'm so glad you remembered that. Yeah. Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I want to pull up something from synthesis. Yeah, can't find it. I think let's continue with this. That feels too long. Yeah. So we can, sorry, can take the next passage. I hope you can see the right screen and not synthesis. So it's a very small passage from the mother. Just me. You're mute, Ritu.
Shocks and trials always come as a divine grace to show us the points in our being where we fall short and the movements in which we turn our back on our soul by listening to the clamor of our mental being and vital being. If we know how to accept these spiritual blows with due humility, we are sure to cover a great distance at a single bound. The mother.
Yeah, so profound. This we know from the above also that these things come to point us, where we are falling short. We realize this, right? If we keep losing it, we realize, okay, this is what triggers it. This is where I fall. So shocks and trials always come as a divine grace to show us the points in our being where we fall short and the movements in which we turn our back on our soul. This, I think, is a very big catch here. The movements in which we turn our back on our soul by listening to the clamor of our mental being and vital being. Can you try and reflect on this for me? What is your understanding of this?
Yeah, so what I understand out of this is that most of the time when these shocks and trials come, we run away. I mean, we get so absorbed in them. We do not listen to our soul, rather, we go further into that mental chatter and and the pain and the depression and this loop that, oh, why is this happening with me? Rather, if at that those are the times, rather, if we want to, if we with awareness sit and see the entire situation, we can learn much more. Like this, it says that we can cover a great distance at a single bound.
Yeah,
So,
this thing, right? Just turning our back on our soul. Like, how do I
Hmm.
practically, if you can think of one way, how do I turn my back on my soul?
So instead of being, I think, centered and balanced, And listening to the inner voice, we get carried away by all the noises which are there in the mind. So I think that's what I understand.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, because, and then I say, oh, I'm confused. Oh, I don't know what to do, or I don't know why I did it, right? Because at that particular point, I was so enamored, so distracted, so distorted that the voice was saying, was talking, and yet I wasn't there to listen to it. So
But
imagine,
hmm,
yeah,
sometimes what happens is that somehow in me, I know that by the end of it, everything's gonna be okay. And this is just a phase. I should keep my balance. I should not react. But at the same time, I also feel that maybe I'm not um, giving it the attention it deserves, or maybe I'm just trying to avoid the situation by not thinking about it too much. So, see, matlab, I know at the end of it, everything would fall okay at the right place. But just sometimes when I think I'm sure everything will be okay, but then that negative the situation by thinking like that, you should act, do something. So there's somehow difficult to find a balance.
yeah, no, but here I think one thing that there's a little confusion. They never say not to act. They never say not to do things. But what center am I doing it from, right? Am I listening to the inner voice, which could be telling me act or do this or take this approach, right? And yet the mental, say being really dominant, right? About right and wrongs and competitions and looking at what everybody else is doing. What is the trend? What are my expectations, right? What will people say? It has its own, it's like imagine that there are three aunties, somebody saying कि अरे कर क्या रहा है, what are you doing, do this, do that, that is the way. And then that's the mental auntie. Then there is the vital auntie, which is all emotional, that oh my god, how could this be happening to me, oh this is right, this is wrong, oh I'm about to die, my heart hurts, again full of emotions. And then there is that inner voice, which how we have been again very recently even reflecting in the circle of harmony almost simultaneously, right? Which it said it's not a word even, it's just a realization in the being that yes, this feels right. And that's not that emotional feel. It's not that a voice even would say, you just know there's something in you which knows that, this seems lighter, this seems राइटर दिस सीम्स हित, राइट और रॉन्ग से बढ़ के जो एक हित है कि हाँ यहाँ पे मुझे कहीं शांति मिल रही है तो ये ठीक होगा। और वो शांति वो वाली नहीं कि ओके 10 मिनट का मैं चुप हो सकता हूँ, आई विल नॉट शाउट राइट नाउ, like if a decision, like the decisions that I make, are they coming from again accomplishments and ambitions and rights and wrongs, or are they coming from somewhere deeper within? So anytime, because I am a mental being, reasoning is my highest domain right now. But if I'm able to transcend it or keep it on the side, it's like कि अगर मेरे पास एक बहुत बड़ी गाड़ी है, but मुझे if I have to, go on a narrow lane, but if I say that how can I walk? Why should I walk in the narrow lane? I have a big car. I should be able to drive in that big car, right? It won't work, right? If I don't go in the narrow lane or I'll have to walk. But my brain could say that no, no, I am the one who has this car. I don't need to be walking. So that is the difference between using, how when we use the reasoning mind everywhere, we cannot go into that narrow lane, say, with that reasoning mind, because it has a specific agenda. It has been trained to value certain things, right, wrong. इतनी उम्र है तो ये हो जाना चाहिए, इतना है तो वो हो जाना चाहिए, नेक्स्ट क्या इट्स ऑलवेज कैचिंग द कैरेट एंड द कैरेट कीप्स चेंजिंग, राइट? So just this ki one must act, the whole Gita, which is supposed to be the sar of the Upanishads, right? Gita is supposed to be the sar of all the Upanishads, and we all would want to know the Upanishads, but we don't, right? Like there are so many and they seem, I don't know, so extensive. So wahan pe, what is Krishna saying, right? Like I don't know fully, but like Lord Arjun, right? Like he doesn't say sit and okay, he to was ready to just get off the battlefield, right? And go. Okay, I don't want to do. And he's saying no fight. So if we think that spirituality is telling us not to fight or not to stand, that's not right, right? It's we have to fight. But what am I fighting? And what center am I fighting from is a very big thing. I don't know if I was able to communicate the difference between the two. Mm. Yeah.
Maybe that's like fighting, but then fighting, not getting too involved in the fight. Fighting, but not getting so emotionally, mentally involved so that it disturbs you.
Yeah, basically a part of our beings, they overpower us, right? So if I don't have to be overpowered, if I feel so what is one of the easiest thing is I step back, right? जैसे समझ लो लड़ाई चल रही है, there are two people who are fighting. One thing is I get into the fight and I try to separate them. Or there could be कि I get in the fight and I also start hitting them with some punches and some kicks. Or I stand on the side and I try to resolve that, right? That ruk jao. So when is the chance that I won't get punched? The best chance would be if I'm standing on the side, right? So this though you would absolutely agree that if they say I am going through a challenge, you can clearly see more than I do because you don't have those veils of, this happened to me and stuff. And we can do it so when we look at a movie, when we are hearing a friend's story, we can so clearly see that, my God, this is where you are stuck. Why can't she do that? Why can't he do that? Right? Because we are complicated beings or we have made ourselves complicated. So again, when we talk about the witness Purusha, that is what it is, right? Acting from the right center, step back, step back. Why can't we see my own mistakes? Why can't I see it? Because I'm too close to myself. Just like I can't see my eyelashes. So if I have to develop this, if I can develop this practice of stepping back, I'm more, और आई कैन एंड आई मस्ट डू इट बट मेरे को कीचड़ में उतर के लड़ाई में करने से मैं आई वोंट बी एबल टू सॉल्व दिस so let me step back. It's as if I'm advising somebody else or choosing for somebody else. What will I choose? So that those small things, they make it easier. Then उसमें इतनी मिलावट नहीं होती. So it's cleaner, it's simpler, it's coming from the higher side. Somebody is saying
Hmm.
something, you want to say something back, but you're like, that person is not even receptive. What will you tell him? He refuses to listen. The inner voice says, stop. You stop. And after 2 days, the person come back and say, yes, you were right. You haven't said anything. और वहां पे ऐसे हो रहा था कि पता नहीं हिला दो कि क्या कर रहे हो. So many examples we have seen, but we feel, हम बहुत चतुर हैं, हम बहुत इंटेलिजेंट हैं, हम कैसे चुप रहे हैं. आई नो. सो ये आई नो ही हमें it kills us, like, not kills us obviously, but really makes it harder than it needs to be. I think you were saying something.
नहीं नहीं. It would have been so much better, if we could see this actually. Like where it says, if we know how to accept these spiritual flows with due humility, we are sure to cover a great distance at a single bound. As if, we are playing a board game and sometimes we land on a square which says jump 6 squares, and then we jump those 6 squares, and then we can see, wow, we have made such great progress with one move. So if you could see actually our lives from that point of view, then we would appreciate these shocks and trials and blows so much better. But since we are so involved, sometimes it's difficult to see that, okay, the blows were actually good.
यहाँ पे अगेन जो हम बात करते हैं कि ना डोंट गिव मी इंटेलिजेंस, गिव मी विजडम, है ना? तो आई थिंक यहाँ पे वो डिफरेंस आ जाता है कि इंटेलिजेंस इज ऑलवेज अबाउट लाइक profits and losses, achievements and failures, gains versus losses. So usually it's like about कि मेरा बेस्ट क्या होगा, इधर इधर बेस्ट मतलब एज इन कि मुझे क्या मिल सकता है, प्लेजर, चीजें, है ना? तो वो हो गया एक ये वाला एस्पेक्ट. एंड येट इफ यू आर सेइंग दैट इफ वी कुड सी दैट ओके हाँ ये 6 तो दिख गया, बट उसके बाद वो सांप खड़ा है और जो मुझे नीचे गिराएगा, बट मैं कितनी बार तो वहां से नीचे गिर चुका हूँ. जैसे अब when we play snakes and ladders, say if I'm playing snakes and ladder with a 4 5 year old, all the snake positions are new for him. The snake on number 99, you and I know there is always a snake on number 99 which pulls us back to I think number 11 or something, right? Always all the snakes and ladder boards have a big snake on number 99. It's not news to me. So now, if I have fallen enough time and I still refuse to see there is a snake on number 99, then what? Then it's my issue, right? It's something I am refusing to see. So if I don't see, दो चीजें हो सकती हैं. Either I haven't played enough, I haven't fallen enough. That is why they say कि अच्छा अगर अभी नहीं हो रहा है तो रुको अभी और पिटाई करवा लो, और पिटाई जरूरी है. And that is not said in a ridiculing way. It's said in a very compassionate way that I being I, लातों के भूत बातों से कई बार नहीं मारते हैं, है ना? मोस्टली नहीं मानते हैं, और कोई मेरे में है which doesn't want to accept that yes it's hard, or yes this is where I fall, or my cleverness, तुम्हारी चालाकी ही तुम्हें मार डालेगी. ये we don't get that. So either I need more blows and then I will get that, or I'm not seeing my life, right? I'm so caught up in, oh my God, this happened to me, that I could not see that, yes, this happened, but what did it bring? What did it give me? What did it change? Because once we start seeing those things, na, it becomes quite obvious that it's not that you stop crying or you don't say that, oh, why is this happening? And yet there is a voice which gets stronger and stronger the more you give it attention, that this is the way, this is the way, this is the way, keep holding on. So we do see those 6 paces के बाद में snake, but because मेरे को वो 6 paces बहुत attractive लगते हैं, ऐसा लगता है शायद इस बार snake ना आए. तो वही हमारी जो क्लेवरनेस है ना, कि आई एम स्पेशल, मेरी जिंदगी में देखना मतलब बस प्लेजर ही प्लेजर देखना. तो ऐसे करके तो वो फिर हम खुद को बेवकूफ बना रहे होते हैं, उसमें किसी और की गलती नहीं है और हमारी भी नहीं है, बिकॉज दिल करता है बेवकूफ बनाने का, बहुत मजा आता है बेवकूफ बनाने में. तो ठीक है, मतलब ऐसे ही सीखेंगे. दिस इज द वे, बाय योर स्टम्बलिंग द वर्ल्ड इज परफेक्टेड. Okay, I found what I wanted to share, just seeing where it starts from. Yeah, so this is synthesis of yoga. The chapter is realization of Sachidananda, Sachidanand. So if you look here it says what we call unconsciousness. So when we are talking about this passage, it's about we don't understand what's happening, right? So it's type of a unconsciousness. So what we call unconsciousness is simply other consciousnesses consciousness. It is the going in of the surface wave of our mental awareness of outer objects into our subliminal self awareness and into our awareness too of other planes of existence. Like we go to other planes. It's not that we stop existing. I can never be unconscious, is what it was saying. He was sorry saying it's Sri Aurobindo. So we are really no more unconscious. Imagine when we are asleep or stunned or drugged or dead or in any other state, then we are plunged in inner thought, oblivious of our physical selves and our surroundings. तो इमेजिन कि हर एक मास्टर मिस्टिक बोलता बोलता ही डाइट के बिकम अवेयर बिकम अलर्ट माइंडफुल स्टे बी विद योर ब्रेथ स्टे इन द प्रेजेंट मोमेंट and look at and we don't take it that seriously, right? We realize it's important. When we do it, we feel it's beautiful, and yet if when I'm not there in the present, I'm as good as dead because I'm not there. So, my God, like we are no more unconscious when we are asleep or stunned or drugged or dead or in other state than when we are plunged in inner thought, oblivious of our physical self and our surroundings. For anyone who has advanced even a little way in yoga, this is the most elementary proposition and one which offers no difficulty whatever to the thought because it is proved at every point by experience, right? जब यहाँ हूँ ही नहीं तो कैसे ठीक रिएक्ट करूंगा जब हाँ हूँ ही नहीं तो रिएक्ट ही करूंगा एक्ट कैसे करूंगा राइट लाइक आई एम नॉट फुली देयर अब्सॉर्बिंग we were just we took the topic of listening in circle of harmony. So if I'm not listening to understand, if I'm listening to respond, how will I be responding well, right? It's not a possibility. So Sri Aurobindo is saying that you realize that very earlier on that this is the case. Going further, just stop me in case it gets confusing anyway. So it is more difficult to realize that existence and undelight of existence cannot go together. It is more difficult to realize that existence actually this is tying to something they had said before he had said before that it's not possible that existence is not delight, but this is not tying up to what we were doing going further. What we call misery, grief, pain, absence of delight, right? This is a problem, right? This is why we are sad or we feel life is hard because of misery, grief, pain. Absence of delight is again merely a surface wave of the delight of existence, which takes on to our mental experience these apparently opposite tints because of a certain trick of false reception in our divided being, which is not our existence at all. So, what you were sharing about Akhandanandji, right? That I am that such Chit Anand, like this in different words. And so this is again Sri Aurobindo. He's saying that it's not possible. Delight is my being. So if I'm experiences these things, these are just waves, right? The superficial things again caused because of distortions or tricks, because I feel I'm divided from him. But what you read was an affirmation that no, I am that, right? So if I am that which is the true, why do I feel the misery, grief, and pain? So these are just trick of false reception. Okay, we are receiving things badly of in a divided being, which is not our existence at all, but only a fragmentary formulation or discolored spray of conscious force tossed up by the infinite sea of our self-existence. कि इन अ वे जैसे स्प्रे नहीं आ जाता लाइक समथिंग ऑफ अ फोर्स तो उस हिसाब से द सी ऑफ सेल्फ एग्जिस्टेंस का इन अ वे वो स्प्रे आ जाता है कि अरे मेरे को ये है बिकॉज मैं अपने आप को वो लिमिटेड बीइंग समझती हूँ एंड दिस वाज व्हाट वाज लाइक द पंच फॉर मी या So in or would you like to read it? I've been talking non-stop.
Yeah. In order to realize, in order to realize this, we have to get away from our absorption in these surface habits, these petty tricks of our mental being. And when we get behind and away from them, it is surprising how superficial they are. What ridiculously weak and little penetrating pinpricks they prove to be. And we have to realize true existence and true consciousness and true experience of existence and consciousness, Sat, Chit, and Ananda.
So just this aspect, see, what does he say?
Hmm.
That if we have to realize this, we have to get away from our absorption into surface habits. ये कैसे आएगा? अंदर जाना आता नहीं तो वहीं रहेंगे,
Hmm.
है ना? मतलब how do we go inside if we don't know how to go inside, if we don't practice going inside? But once we are able to touch those spaces, then we'll realize that these petty tricks, मतलब ये हमारी tricks of mental being, and when we do get behind and away from them, this was very, I don't know, it meant a lot to me. It is surprising how superficial they are, right? अभी मतलब ऐसा लगता है हाय कितना दर्द हो रहा है ऐसे मत करो, right? And he's saying that we will be surprised how superficial they are, what ridiculously weak and little penetrating pinpricks they prove to be. Like अभी जो ऐसे लग रहा है कि हाय मार ही डाला, like how could you do this to me? Why is God so cruel? Why can't my life be simpler, more delightful? It would seem surprising how superficial they are. जैसे अभी हमको ऐसा लगता है कि आउटर ही तो है, इनर तो है नहीं, और होगा भी तो बहुत दूर है। और हल्का सा जैसे ही वो जंप आया तो ऐसे दिखेगा कि कहाँ खड़े थे, क्या कर रहे थे, right? Like surprising how superficial they are, what ridiculously weak, कि ये जो मेरी सारे लॉजिक्स हैं और रीजनिंग्स हैं और जो दर्द हैं, ridiculously weak and little penetrating pinpricks, कि अभी तक जो मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है मेरे दिल पे कुल्हाड़ी मार दी किसी ने, pinpricks they prove to be. Like imagine, and again, I have to remind myself, and that's why I share it again and again. This is, say, Sri Aurobindo, he doesn't exaggerate. Like it's not a Punjabi khoon who says कि हाँ जी हमारे पास तो, right? Like he says facts. So even reading this was so uplifting for me कि अच्छा pinprick लगेगा, अच्छा superficial इतना, and वो हमें पता है, right? And yet to just read it and get reaffirmed in such beautiful words and the way he says it. So pain हो रहा है तो it's a false trick of my divided being. So again, I don't know if you liked it. I just got whatever overexcited is the right word for now. Yeah. Petty tricks of a mental being. Yeah. एंड एक्चुअली में अगर हम पीछे देखें, जैसे जो भी चीज जब हो रही होती है वो कितनी इंटेंस
Hmm.
है, राइट? ऐसा लगता है कि बस मैटर ऑफ लाइफ एंड डेथ. And yet, when I look at it after 2 months, maybe even 2 days, sometimes 2 hours, I feel कि अरे ये क्या ड्रामा कर दिया, या इतनी जरूरत थी नहीं, या I can laugh at
Hmm.
the same thing which was causing me pain. So then we start making that connect, right? इसका मतलब कुछ होता नहीं है, मैं ऐसे ही वो कर देता हूँ, बट उस टाइम पे जब लग रहा होता है, अगर तब मैं उसको कंट्रोल कर सकूं, उसको याद करके, दैट इज द पावर, दैट इज द लर्निंग. एंड व्हेन आई स्टार्ट लुकिंग एंड फॉर्मिंग दैट कनेक्शन, that will lead me to the place where I can learn to stop, right? Before acting, before reacting. So those things keep honing themselves. It's a process. So we have actually extended the hour, and that's okay. It was very beautiful. So, any last things you want to say, or should we now close?
No, it was very nice. It takes time to absorb
Yeah,
what was being said, but said in a very light manner, but such a big thing.
yeah, exactly. Such a big thing. Like, lot of times we might feel something, but we don't even know how to express it, right? And when we
Hmm.
see it being expressed in words so simply, it's like, oh, it's like a miracle in itself. Yeah, so let's end the session here. We'll continue with obstacles and difficulties next week, the reading of it. So, thanking grace, thanking the divine for the teachings, for these beautiful, powerful forces in action which are there to change us and help us transform. May I will more strongly for perfection. May I will more actively, may I aspire more actively for transformation now that I know how petty is the situation, the conditions, the circumstances I find myself stuck in. So there is the way out. There is that going inside, and may I be guided, and may I have the will and the courage and the grace to establish myself more and more and more in the truth, however much I can conceive or see of it. So, praying for fulfillment, contentment, satisfaction, joy, and peace for myself and everyone. May no one suffer, and may we all be guided and know that we are truly being guided to the best. Thank you.